Okay, welcome. This is Keith with How to Build Your Own Home. We are now going live. I found out there's an interesting feedback. Sometimes I go live, but my wife would hear me outside and she would be like a minute delay. So I didn't know there was that much of a delay. So I'll just go ahead and get right into it. I want to start this off while I get some people to chime in with some new technologies. I've got some water with me this time. I had some dry mouth. I even got my logo on it. So these are not for sale. This is only one of a kind. So let me know if I should try to sell those. We are in America, and so multiple streams of revenue are advised. I want to talk about insulation real quickly and get some people excited, and maybe we can stimulate some conversation. I'll take questions on just about anything, but if you have some questions on insulation, I'm interested in a dialogue because I've actually been starting to do a lot of research on insulation. Like I said, I'm actually trying to design some homes where I don't have any drywall and I don't have any insulation inside the typical cavity of the home. And so I'm really interested in post beam structures. Garage, homes that actually look like a barn inside, and it's all nice, rough sawn timber. That's what I'm interested in. So I've got some insulate some technologies I've been ordering. As a general contractor, I can typically get just about samples of anything. Anyway, this here would be a standing seam roof, and it's got what, almost 6 inches of insulation here. That this would actually go on the top of the roof. This here has got about 4.25 inch of insulation on there, and this could get some really good R value. I haven't found the R value on this right now, but in my area, I need R49. Our state is going to change a code. It's going to go into effect probably in July of this year. So I have to find a way to get R48. Excuse me, I sneeze. The insulation here is going to get to me. But I've got to find a way to get R48 on my ceiling, on the deck of the roof. And so I'm not sure I'm a fan of this just yet, but it's a really interesting technology. This just gets folded down and it pinches down, and then you nail it to the roof with this little flange here. So that's something that I'm looking at. Here's another technology that I've found, which would be this here is actually, it's like a sandwiched plywood with about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of insulation on there, and it indicates here that that I can get up to R5.4 with 3/4 inch of rigid styrofoam or rigid foam, closed cell rigid foam. So that gives me about R5.4. Not bad. On a wall system, I need to get up to an R19 for insulation. Now imagine a framer putting together your home, and rather than the typical OSB sheeting, they're putting this on the outside of the home. So this is the facing out where you can actually apply your shiplap, stucco, just about anything you want to on the outside, but your insulation's already done. So why do you need an insulator on the inside? Now, in some cold regions, obviously, you may want to beef it up. You want as much R value as you can. But I found that when you put a coat on top of you and a coat on top of you and another coat on top of you, guess what happens? You start to sweat inside that home. So a lot of people have asked me, should I seal my home up and go for this total seal? And I said, not if you're going to be cooking a lot, showering, bathing, washing dishes over the sink. All that humidity is going inside the home, and it has to find a way to get out. Otherwise, it's going to work its way into cold condensing surfaces. So imagine that there's an electrical box. Let me see. I need to connect. Oops. I need to activate my chat right here. And we are now. Give me a second here. Got a message here. Chat disconnected. Please wait while we try to reconnect you. Unable to connect. Connect. Now let's see. Just want to make sure that my chat is open up here. Engage with your audience. Start Q&A. There we go. Open now. Okay. I didn't turn my chat on, so I wanted to make sure I get that turned on. I'm still learning a lot about this whole process. So anyway, um, back to this here, this whole concept. While that's uploading here, imagine not having an insulator come to your home, which is a completely different subcontractor. And when you have a completely separate contractor doing something at a wall, you're paying for all their liability insurance, all of their overhead, a lot of their travel, their gas, and you're also paying for that product that you're actually putting there for that client. Now, if you can avoid that and put that inside one subcontractor, that's a way to save some money. That's what I've been exploring with some of these products here. I've got another product here that I want to share with you. This here is rigid foam, not rigid foam. This is rock wool, rigid rock wool. You can't bend this. This stuff here is fireproof, mold proof. It's just some of the best insulation that's out there. It's also an incredible sound deadening quality to it. I don't know if you can hear it. It just deadens my sound just by putting my voice right up to it. But I'm also thinking about putting this on the outside of the home, and as a result, uh, you have some insulation on the outside, but you don't need to have any insulation on the inside. And when you do that, you actually save that again. You save that cost, and that's what I'm trying to work with, is to try to find a way to cut costs by having multiple people come to a job site here. I'm going to send a text here, someone real quickly. I just have to say yes. Help that he's good to go. There we are. He wanted to know a schedule for tomorrow, so I had to let him know that he's good to start a job tomorrow. Let's see here. So what I'm thinking about is, while I'm trying to get this live chat. Let's see, got that going. I think I've got everything working in proper order. Participants, total. Okay, we're good. So any thoughts you have on that, let me know with regard to what I'm trying to do. I'm just tired of a couple of subcontractors and the cost that they incur by standing in the same spot that somebody else was standing in just yesterday, and they are standing in the same spot that somebody was standing in, 2 days ago, all doing something in that same spot. And that's where I have found the major cost of the home is. That's why people buy prefab homes, or smaller tiny homes, or homes on a trailer, or whatever you want to call them, because they're all manufactured in an environment, a big warehouse, and the same people for the most part are doing all the work, so they cut their costs extremely. But what's really sad is they upsell those costs to the outside market, because whatever the market will bear, that's what they will do. They will just upsell it, and you're not really getting the savings. But if you had your own warehouse per se inside your own company, your own owner builder, and you're controlling all that, and you're eliminating subcontractors, because one contractor can do all of the work because they're using a different product, they're using a different technology that's solving for two subcontractors. If you can do that, that's really, really powerful. It's like if you want a stained concrete floor, and you just put some epoxy on that might, in the concrete subcontractor can do that. Excuse me. Then your cost savings can drop, because it's called an economy of scale, and that's what you're going after. Can you help me with chat? I can't get chat to work.
Okay, we have chat here.
I'm not seeing
Okay.
it. So how come I'm
Okay.
not?
I'll
My
just
wife's
go from
helping.
here. We'll just go from my phone now, because we have chat here.
Okay. Okay, my wife's showing me the chat so I can see them down below here. So
For some reason, it's not working.
for some reason, it's not poking up here. So I'm going to put those live chats right here so they can read them. Let's see here. So David is asking a question on 2x4 stud outside walls with external insulation 2x4 walls much cheaper. Um, 2x4 walls is not much cheaper. In fact, according to some new codes that are coming out, you will not get the sufficient R value with a 2x4 wall. In fact, I was just talking with my insulator subcontractor on while I was in my truck asking him a couple of questions. His brother was trying to build a home with a 2x4 wall and it wasn't going to get the sufficient value. And so they're trying to do some spray foam in there to see if they can't increase our value as well that way. If you can't get at least an R19, R24, or whatever it is for your particular region with a 2x4 wall, you need to try something else, which is what this is. This here is that plywood that I was mentioning, and you can get an R5.4 additional R value, and the 3/4 inch plywood there, that will give you an R.41. So you add them together, and you've got almost 7R, an R value of 7, just with the sheeting itself, not including any insulation that you put inside the wall. But if you can order this in a thickness of almost 5 inches thick, and you can get up to an R29 for your exterior sheeting with this product. This here is the product, and I get this stuff at a lot of wholesale supplies. This company here is called EcoBase. I'm not recommending them. It's just one that I found that's out there. If you go online and you search for insulation wholesalers, they typically have a little retail outlet or products and stuff that they can showcase, and you can go in there and take a look at those. And I picked that up just today. I had some others in my office, but they disappeared on me. Let's go with another question here.
The purple.
Oh, the purple. So David asks, a lot of people do use this. Oh, purple. Tina. Okay, let's answer Tina's question. Tina asks, is it usually possible to live on site if building a home and we have to see our current home to buy the lot? Just trying to, you have to sell your current home to buy the lot. Just trying to figure out how to buy a lot and get building while having a current home. It's a really, really good question. Let me answer that in kind of a roundabout way. If you're building in the county, which is typically where most RV living situations occur while they're building a home, most cities would not allow for that at all. If you're in a county, sometimes they will allow for that, but only for a certain amount of time. Cities, I don't know of any cities that even allow for that, unless that city is an actual very, very rural city. It's a small town, then they might allow for that. However, they may size up your septic because of that, and you may have to put your septic before you can even park an RV on there. And then there has to be an RV hookup for the septic, which means that even when the home's complete, that RV hookup has to also be there as well, or it has to be sized up to handle for the RV hookup. So that's going to increase some costs. It's also going to cause for some costs up front before you even start building the home. Now, I'm dealing with some clients right now, some really sweet people, and they were going to buy an RV and then live in the RV while I build the home. We'll talk about some of the logistics of that. But I actually talked them out of buying an RV. Right now, RV sales are terrible. They're crashing. It's not a good market to buy into. Thinking that you're going to sell it, it's not good. So I would think about buying or building a small loft garage situation or a small loft pole barn, something tiny that's almost the size of an RV, but now it's going to be functional for the property and it's on permanent foundation. So therefore, you're going to increase the overall valuation of the home. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to actually build a post barn beam structure on the facility, have it plotted out, pull a separate permit for that. So when that's done, they can actually literally move into that and live in that for the next 8 months while we complete the main build of the home. So it's logistics, it's cost, but overall it could be savings. I'm not a fan of trailers or RVs right now. It's not a good market. But if you can make that transition and have some money up front to make it work, put it into a permanent foundation. The more you can put into a permanent foundation without wheels, then you're gonna protect your valuation. All right. Hope that answers that question for you. All right. Stephen, my wife is pointing them out because if she doesn't, then I will skip those. All right. Mike asks, can you explain the difference between vapor barriers and moisture barriers? Yes. A vapor barrier is going to allow for moisture to get through. A moisture barrier is not. A moisture barrier is going to stop moisture from penetrating from one side to the other. And this is a really, really good question because in a lot of different regions, based upon building codes, you can only use one or the other. You can't use just one. You have to use the one that's required. I'm a big fan of vapor barriers. Vapor barriers are going to allow that wall to breathe. And you really want that wall to breathe because it's going to dry out. Even if you put insulation on there, like this insulation here, this here's rock wall, and it's breathable. It's never gonna hold moisture. I can literally drop water on this. I'd get it all over the place, and it would bead. It wouldn't penetrate inside there. And even if it did penetrate over time, it's still going to breathe through that wall. And so putting a vapor barrier over that whole sheeting is going to allow for wind to work through there, air to move through and between the walls. Again, it's different for different areas. I live in a very arid climate, and so we just put vapor barriers on just about everything. And you'll even see some of the paper they put on holes. There's dimples in it, holes in it, that allows for that breathing to take place. So I just think it's a risk. It's a very high risk to seal up the home perfectly, especially in humid environments. If you're on the coast, anywhere on the coast, you're going to want to make sure that there's breathability in that wall to some degree. It's like a coat, like I mentioned before. You put on big coat on, and you zip it up, and then you start to exert yourself just a little bit, like boiling a pot of water on the stove. You're exerting increased energy of moisture inside there. There's nowhere for that to go, and it's going to find a cold condensing surface like a pitcher of water on the table that's going to condense on that water. Well, if there's no cold surface inside the ambient temperature of the room, it's going to find it in the walls, and it's going to condense in the walls, and that's where it's going to land, and that's going to create rot. So hope that answers your question for you. Having homes breathe is my ticket to success. Rugod, that's a cool name, Rugod. Can you discuss water rights in Utah and what kinds of legal regulatory hoops a home builder has to jump through to drill a water well on their property? Good question. We have the right to use water. We don't actually possess or own the water. The State Water Conservancy actually owns the water, and they give certain people or certain jurisdictions the right to use a certain amount of water. Is it irrigation water? Is it culinary water? I've seen some homesteaders actually convert some irrigation water into culinary water. I did that on a job many years ago. I had some culinary, 2.5 acre feet of irrigation water, and I converted 1 acre foot of that into a culinary hookup, and I gave that to the city in exchange for a hookup. So it's easier and sometimes cheaper to buy irrigation rights that you may need, and then converting some of those to culinary. That's one route to go. Try to do that before you try to go with a well. Now, wells are very hard to get in some areas. I know that in Colorado, the last year, just before we had this huge winter downpour of just snowmelt, they halted permits for septic systems statewide. And I don't know if that's still the case, mainly because they were claiming that septics take too much water. And then this water really doesn't go back into the sewer system so that they can recapture it and do what they want to do with it and treat it. It was taking it off grid per se. So water rights, wells, you have to check with your water conservancy district and ask them what the potential or possibility is. I did have a video on that last week. It came out. Yeah, it came out on Tuesday night. Watch Tuesday night's video. We had a lot of comments on that, and it went very well with Primary Water Technologies, and check them out. I had a lot of questions on that video as well. I tried to respond to several of them, but check that video out. He really talked a lot about water, it's not as scarce as you think it is. And so that's if that's what your worry is. And then you really want to do some investigation on water. Talk around, ask questions, talk to well drillers, talk to the county building department, ask them, and just ask around, and they'll start giving you information. So it's different everywhere.
I don't know if that's a typo. 20,000 square feet or 2,000 square
Yeah, it's
feet.
probably 2,000 square feet. So this is our Lish says, RJ Lish. Hi Keith, we building a 2,000 square foot story CBS home in Central Florida later this year. Wondering what your thoughts may be regarding type of attic insulation, closed or open systems. That's a good question. How close are you on the coast? That's going to kind of influence a lot of that. A lot of that. Now, I'm not a fan of. I typically like closed cell. Closed cell means that it literally moisture is literally not going to get from one side to the other, but at the same time, it's going to trap whatever moisture you have on one side, and it's not going to get through to the other side if there's no other way. So if you do use closed cell, I would ventilate the roof. You want ventilation. Now, there's a caveat to that because in some hurricane areas they don't allow for that. Even in California, they don't allow for air ventilation under the soffit of the eaves because that's a fire hazard. And a lot of cities are cracking down on that. And so ventilation is not allowed under the eave, but there is ventilation through the gable of the home and also through the tile roof. In our area, my area, we actually ventilate on top of the roof, which makes no sense to me at all. If your roof is here, they put a vent on the lower part of the roof, and then they put a vent up at the higher part of the roof, and they think air is going to come in through that way. And I don't sense the logic. It wants to come in from here, and then it wants to vent out that way. So I would prefer venting underneath the soffit. But like I said, movement of air is what's going to keep things from mold buildup. It's going to keep things from cold condensing surfaces from happening. The more air you have, and there's nothing wrong with having 19, 24 inches of insulation inside your attic and then having air move above that to keep the attic cool. That's not going to affect your effectiveness inside the building. So you want to design a home so that the roof doesn't come quite close to the studs. If you put a heel on that roof and there's section in there, that's where the insulation is most effective, is getting it tucked in there. I've seen too often in America, we have a wall here and we set the roof right on here and we just have no real good insulation here. And wood is a terrible insulator. For every inch of wood, you get 1.41 inches or 1.4 R value. Terrible R value. Even if you have an inch and a half, it's barely a 1-to-1 ratio. Whereas this here has a much higher R value than wood would have. So this is closed cell insulation. All the spray foam cans you see everywhere, it's all closed cell. So wherever you put it, moisture can't really get in from one side to the other side. So let me see.
That's all the questions for now.
Okay. I've been thinking that is one of the things I've been seeing a lot of owner builders do is they really don't know the size of the home to build at the start, and they make some mistakes. What's a really good square foot size to start at? And I would really strongly recommend to build something if it's your first time to stay under 1,500 square feet, especially if that's closer to where your budget is. I've seen way too many owner builders design big. They can't help themselves. They go through a whole process, and I've seen a lot of them spend a lot of money on getting a home designed, structurally engineered, even all the geotech done. And then they find out they can't afford to build it. That's about a 40% failure rate. I've seen about 40% owner builders go that far and find out, oh, we can't build this home. I've seen homes in Idaho, Colorado, Mississippi, Texas, you name it. People that I've kind of mentored through the process, and I tried to rein them in as much as I possibly could. And they were dead set on building that size of home, but they couldn't. When became crunch time and they were starting to put numbers to it, they started to realize that they really couldn't do it. So prepare yourselves to pull back on the size of home that you're going to try to build. And then if you can think in terms of stages, I'm going to build this first and then I'm going to build that. Like if you could build a modular home, uh, or a stepped situation where you had a garage first, maybe a loft or something under 1,000 square feet, and you get that under your belt, you now have a better perspective of real time to build, cost to build, subcontractors, quality necessary. You have a really good fix on that, and then you can go after build a 2,500 or 3,500 square foot home. But I'm seeing owner builders really try to build too big, and it really balloons that cost. When lumber goes up and your house is 5,000 6,000 square feet and it goes up 5 or 6%, that's a huge hit. That's really big, and sometimes that can happen during the course of construction. So think a little bit more. I don't need to say modestly. I think within the range of comfortability, so that you know that you can build it within that budget. So that's my best advice I give owner builders.
Two questions.
So David asks, I've seen some videos of home designs that enclose the attic, put the HVAC up there, and heat and cool the area. I don't get the point in that. Well, let me explain what the point of that is. It's called conditioned space. I used to work for the United States Department of Agriculture. I built affordable housing, and one of the requirements was for their homes is that the HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning unit, the actual unit, had to be inside the envelope of the home where the air conditioning and heating take place. That's called conditioned space. The advantage of that is that imagine in my climate, today it's about 90 degrees.
Mhm.
The attics would be about 120 degrees. So you've got a compressor, a heat pump in an attic that the air around it is around 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's less efficient for that machine to operate, and that's why there's a benefit to that. I know another YouTube channel. He and I are very in like with this. This is Matt Reisinger. He talks about conditioned space all the time. Well, I've been talking about it for 25 years. In every home I build, every time I possibly can, I put all my HVAC units, my water heaters, my electrical panel, all of it inside one conditioned space of the home. I just did a video that came out last Monday, and at the very end of the video, I talked about that. It's a home I just completed, the Omniblock home. And the mechanical room is within the conditioned space of the home. Even though you access it from outside, it's still the air temperature and all that is all maintained inside the envelope of the home. It's a really good advantage, and just not a lot of builders do that. Production builders never do that. They never think about the mechanical room inside the home. So square out 5 feet by 8 feet and make that your mechanical room, and you'll be happy you did that. Okay.
Mhm. Average.
Another question here. Average square foot in the 70s was 1,200 square feet. The average now is 2,600 square feet. People have less kids too. Seems a little crazy. It's very crazy. And I'm seeing some people build homes that are 35, 45, 5,500 square feet. I live in, what do we live in about?
17. That's just our part.
So we're about 3,400 square feet. We're about 3,400 square feet. But my parents live in half of that. And then we have a friend staying with us who's staying in a guest room. And we still have plenty of room. It's so I don't know why people build so big. I really don't. Tony asks, "Hi Keith, would you consider sharing best practice creating a beautifully laid out mechanical room? Have you ever had any mechanical rooms that you were proud to display?" Yes, I will put in the live chat a home I did, two homes where I actually did and showcased the mechanical room. If you go to my channel, there's a video I did maybe about 8 months ago. It was a custom luxury home I completed, and I did the mechanical room. Now, my mechanical HVAC contractor said it was not going to be possible, but I had him think differently. And you can take those mechanical units and you can turn them upside down and they can go vertical. And you can actually shrink up your space. And we have two of them inside that room. And the tank's water heater, water softener, low voltage panel, the high voltage panel, it's all inside that room. And I think it's 5 by 8 or 5 by 9 in size, or 6 by 9, something like that. It's not a very, very big room, but it was sufficient for all our needs. And then they can put their vacuum in there and they can put their mop in there, miscellaneous things. And I did have a drain in there. So I should do an optimal size on that. Maybe I have that whenever I consult with students. I say, where's your HVAC going to go? Oh, I didn't think about that. And so they end up reconstructing their whole design to account for the HVAC system. And you want it as central within the design as you possibly can. Not too central so that it destroys the design, but as close to central as you can, because the return air, that's the nightmare. The return air is going to be almost 18 to 20 inches wide. And imagine fitting that through the frame structure of your home just to get the return air. And then when it leaves that unit, and the air blower unit, it's gonna break off into 6 and 8 and 9 and 12-inch diaphragm, and then you're going to fit those through the frame structure of the home. So that's the area that people just make a mistake on. Like, I'm going to see an HVAC contractor on Monday, and I'm going to have him walk through how we're going to do the return air and how we're going to take the trunk line through the home. If you walk through those 70s homes where there's a hallway and there's a bunch of rooms on either side and the ceilings dropped, that's because the heating and air was a duct system, a plenum that went right through the hallway and into the rooms. It was the cheapest way to do it. The benefit of that was that it wasn't in the attic. It was inside the conditioned space of the home, but it wasn't insulated. But you had this drop ceiling, and you walk down these hallways and you see maybe an 8 or 7.5 foot clearance, and it wasn't very pretty at all. But they did it. That's how they did it back in the day. So think in terms of your mechanical room. I've had 2 videos on those. Just go through them. I can put them in the description of this chat at the very end, and I'll grab those 2 videos, and you can actually check them out later on. So
We missed Hype Stonk's question.
okay, Hype Stonks asks the question: what are the best elements of the build to scale back up to reduce costs up front, then upscale or add later after obtaining the CO? Okay. Elements. There's quite a few. That's a big question. One that comes to my mind is in the back of my lot here. I put on a loft apartment, and we actually framed out the wall for where a door would go eventually. So when we eventually build the addition to the garage, another garage for my son, it was easy to cut out. We also had a ledger board we put up on the rooftop because we're going to put a porch on later, but we couldn't afford it right then. That ledger board was put in place before the stucco contractors came, and I put my flashing up at the top. So if I build a porch onto the house, I can slide the roof, and I'm going to be able to put some hangers right there on that ledger board, and it's going to look nice and clean. I even had Matt Bangs Wood. I don't know if you know him as a YouTube channel. He's a framer. He's a very popular framer. And he thought, wow, that's cool. And he actually applied it to a job that he was working on right there and then. It's really that attachment to what you're very easy, so you don't have any demo. Excuse me.
Rob Robbins. Good one.
Okay, Rob asks, I'm wondering if learn some things in advance of an owner builder project, at least to know what I don't know to tackle myself. Yeah, if there's a Habitat for Humanity in your area, find out about it. A lot of those builds, some of them are volunteer, but they still subcontract out to the mechanical, the plumbing, the electrical. They only allow for volunteers to do the things that aren't very highly licensed. But just walking on the job site of any new build, and if you know a friend, hey, I'm just asking questions. You're an owner, are you a general contractor? Can you explain to me kind of the process? You just learn that way. I mean, you can walk on any job site if with permission and learn just by observing. And even parking off to the curb and watching people frame a home or watching people work on the outside when they're doing dirt work, just being more aware of work and the labor involved in the process. That would just be incredible. And yeah, find out about Habitat for Humanity. Also, find out about self help communities. That's a USDA program where families help each other build each other's homes. And a lot of those families really don't have the ability to put in the hours. They need help. Just a couple of weekends, a couple would just be an incredible education for you. So find out about the mutual self help. So, so other, let's see
Yes,
here.
let's see. Douglas Mini, DB Douglas.
Okay. What's the maximum square foot that one ductless mini split can handle? That's a good question. Um, there's various different sizes, and I really don't have that question. But typically, when I was in my home, I have a mini split for each bedroom. And so I can turn them off and on each bedroom, and I can control the temperature thermostat for each bedroom. So each, and then I have one large one for the room downstairs. I have a mini split for my large room downstairs, and that could have been a little better sized, I think, but because I built with OmniBlock, it actually makes it a little comfortable. But it takes a long time to change the air, the ambient temperature in the air, because I banked so much energy into the OmniBlock. What you'll find if you do build with OmniBlock, it takes a long time to nudge that temperature up and down because it has to be banked inside that wall system. So,
Sorry, I was reading all of them. Stephen Fackrell does the Echo board.
does the Echo board have a vapor barrier similar to Zip? Do you know the difference in cost with insulation Zip versus Echo board? Um, I'd have to find out. I know the Zip system is a full moisture barrier. It's just almost impenetrable. I don't know about the Echo board. I was actually looking at it. Echo board is very similar to rigid foam, I believe, if I'm correct, going on the outside. I don't know the cost differences on those. I'd have to research that. So,
I guess you could read that one.
okay. Let me see this one here. My wife is helping me with this. Yeah. Yes, I have stalked some construction homes. Matt Bangs Wood is one of my favorites, along with your channel. I love Matt. He's got a great production quality, music and all that, high drone shots. I have drone shots as well, but he puts some music to it. It's kind of fun. So he's doing great, phenomenal. He's actually built a huge network of framers across the country to really help people understand. And he helps a lot of framers. His main focus is helping framers establish their business and get up and running. So my framer was just here just a second ago, and I said, "Hey, you want to be on a YouTube?" And he got scared, and I said, "Let's do it in 3 weeks." He goes, "Oh, okay. I think I'll get ready for it by then." So he just missed him like 45 minutes ago. Another question here is from Linda. I emailed Sheffield Metal Roof asking about aluminum shingles. The roofer they recommended only does aluminum standing seam. How do you feel about aluminum standing seam? I'm in central Colorado. You deal with some high winds in Colorado. You want to make sure that standing seam is put on. However, it's aluminum, and that's a big plus. A lot of standing. I was talking with my supplier with aluminum shingle roofs, and he can actually take the coil that he gets manufactured and all ready to go, and he can actually have it fabricated to be a standing seam. But keep in mind that aluminum is a little more flimsy than steel or corrugated metal or galvanized metal. It's going to be a little more flimsy. So you want to find out the gauge, the metal gauge on that, and find out what the wind tolerances are, and how much of a sustained gust that roof can take. If any wind gets underneath that standing seam and it catches at all, it's going to go. And one of the biggest concerns with a standing seam is they have a limit, a threshold on the pitch of the roof. Meaning if that roof gets too shallow of a pitch, that means wind can hit it straight on and start to flap it like that. And you don't want to create a wind cell. I had a client in Texas who wanted a 12-12 pitch roof, just insane roof, and he's in Tornado Alley. And I go, anytime high wind's going to come by, it's going to hit that roof like that. And so he ended up changing his design. And I don't live in Texas, but I know that there's a lot of high winds there, so I tried to avoid that.
We missed. It's kind of similar to the HVAC
Okay.
one, but hype stonks again.
Another question from Hype Stonks. That's a cool name, Hype Stonks. Are there any circumstances where getting a whole house ductless HVAC system versus traditional ducted system? Home build is in East Central Florida, hot and humid. Yeah, if you start getting into a larger home with a lot of different rooms, these mini split system is very advantageous because you can shut down those rooms and not have to keep them heated. Now you can do that with a ductless system. They put flaps and control systems, but that's very costly and it's not a complete seal. So you're actually losing heat or cooling into that room. You can't get a complete stop. Imagine a 12-inch or 9-inch duct system. They put a flapper in there to stop it from going into that room. Well, that's a mechanical operation, and if that ever goes bad, then getting up in the attic and replacing that's a nightmare. I would rather, and then you really can't control the thermostat control in that room. You can, but again, that's very costly as well. So I just put a whole unit up in the ceiling if it's that system, and now somebody can literally go in there and they can turn the heat on, turn the cool on, and have complete controls of their temperature, and then you can shut it off and never have to use it. So save money that way. So,
Okay,
okay.
Robbins.
Question 2. Trying to understand roof venting. Are roofs sealed completely airtight with underlayment? How is ventilation achieved if the roof is watertight? Zip system sheathing seams are taped tight too. Yeah, I would not seal my roof off. No matter where you are in the summer, that roof is going to get in excess of 110, 115 degrees in the summer at the bare minimum. Now, even if you've got insulation on there like that in an attic, typically 19 to 22 inches, if it's 110, 115 degrees, you can take your hand and put it inside that insulation, and just before you get to that drywall below, you can feel that heat. And what you want to start doing is, this is a really, really good trick. On the hot day around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just go to the house and feel the outside walls, especially the western facing walls, southern facing walls. And if you feel a temperature difference on that walls versus the interior partition framing, you know that that's poorly insulated. You can take your hand and put it up along the wall near the 8-foot mark or even the 9-foot mark, and let's say it's a 9-foot ceiling. And you can, if it gets warm up there at the top of the corner of the drywall, you know that that's poorly insulated. Then take your hand and put it on the ceiling. Go to an interior partition framing like a bathroom wall or something where there's no outside elements getting to that wall. Feel how warm or cold that is, and then put it on the ceiling. And if the ceiling's warm, you know that attic is getting way too hot. Summertime is the best time to really gauge on how efficient a home is. It's harder in the winter, but in the summer, when you feel just that subtle heat come through, you know that you've got a problem. And that's why if you have that ventilation, cool air coming in, it's still going to get hot up there. Don't get me wrong. It's still going to get hot, but it's moving cool air in. And again, I would seal things up too much. Stephen Ketch, almost like a Kelch, but Ketch. That's a cool name. Hi there, joining late. Did you cover the difference between contractor supply for materials versus Home Depot, Lowe's, dealing, hunting? That's an email. Thank you for reminding that. In fact, I have a couple of questions I want to get to that came in through email. I actually tried it just recently. I tried Home Depot for the very first time. I call it Home Depot. Some of the people were okay to work with, but they got the order wrong. And I couldn't get the delivery when I needed to. Here's the real difference. I can call 3 supply houses in town, local lumber yards. I can call them in the morning, typically, and I can say, hey, I'm short 180 of this. I need a bunk of that. I need 50 sheets of that. Can you deliver? And they'll say yes. I'll get it to you by 3 o'clock. Most of them will do that. If they're so booked, they'll say, great, Keith, I'll have it there first thing in the morning. I can get it out that fast. With Home Depot and Lowe, they're going to be 5 days a week out because they're not masters of scheduling. This is where your supply houses, your local supply houses, they're dedicated specifically to contractors like myself. When I walk into a supply house, they treat me a little differently. Now, you can walk into a supply house and just call yourself a builder, and I have to pay for it in person. And I don't like that. I like to just send a text, or if I have a sheet of material here, I can say, here, I got my list here. I send it to them. Please send this to job 42 or job name or whatever it may be. And I set up a job at those supply houses with a job name and an address, and they bill it all specifically to that address. The box stores aren't that sophisticated. They haven't really gotten to that level. That's why builders don't use them as much. But I tried one recently on a build, and I'm saving a little bit of money on the lumber package. If all goes well, it could save maybe $3,000. In some cases, I can save a lot more. Have you noticed that OSB is now $12 a sheet, and it was over $30 a sheet about a year and a half ago? That's a good barometer of when's a good time to build. So,
okay, Linda, she's been talking about the roofs. Linda Ritchie. And so she wants to know about Permalock Illumination, how to get a hold of them. So we can put a link in there. And then her roof is 612.
Let me answer that question. Linda asking about Permalock roofs. Permalock does not sell direct to the consumer. And a lot of these really good products just don't sell direct to the consumer. For example, this insulation product I was telling you about, you can't get that direct to the consumer. Same thing with this product here. You know, a lot of these products, here's what I'm going to go into a little tangent and I'll answer your question. Okay. I once wanted to create a company called Apex Construction Technologies. And the vision of the company was we warehouse the best and most advanced technologies in construction out there. And we have samples where you can come look at them. And if you want any of this stuff, we'll order it for you. But most supply houses just don't do that. My supply house on roofing, I've tried to talk to them 100 times. Can't you supply aluminum shingles? Can't you supply some of these other products? And he goes, no, that's not what the builders demand. Well, here's the problem. The builders don't demand new technologies because they never see them. If they walked in your store and they saw some samples here and maybe even a brochure, that's cool. I'm going to take them and take a look at that. They come back and they can tell their clients, hey, I found this new product. It's kind of interesting. Check it out. That's why builders don't buy new technologies, because these supply houses don't store them. They don't even have samples of them there. And they could. I have a synthetic I use. I have to buy it in a pallet form. And when I get it in a pallet, I get them for $76 a roll. And it will cover 10 squares on my roof. And it's a safer synthetic for my roofers. They have, even if there's snow on the roof, they can grab with their feet on there and they're not going to slide off. I have to order that back east, and I have pallets of it at a time. And I can't get it locally because the local supply house is controlled by an owner, and he's got buddy relationships with other synthetic manufacturers. So it's a real problem. And there's a huge marketability issue with regard to new technologies and new opportunities that are out there. So if I answer that question, let me see that question again.
The Permalock?
Yeah. So if you're interested in the Permalock, go to my site at howtobuildyourownhome.com. There's a way you can contact the builder. Contact me and let me know what you're interested in. I will refer you to a roofer that I've trained on how to install the aluminum shingle roofs. He's actually, I'm getting him there. He's actually getting to a level where he can actually create a training program, and he can order the shingles, because he's a contractor now. He can order the shingles for you for just a small upcharge, and then gives you some video instruction. He's got all the video done already. And then you can just go to his website and learn how to install. He's a really good roofer who's familiar with metalwork. they can install the aluminum shingle. That's the best route that I'm thinking that for a lot of owner builders anyway.
Okay, Wally.
Do contractors and businesses charge a lot of money if you advertise yourself as a building company versus owner builder? Do contractors and business?
Do they charge more if you're not an owner builder?
Not that I know of. Supply houses, you mean? Not that I know of. What you want to do is set up an account. So let's say you've got, before you even qualify for lending, you want to set up accounts at various places, actually within 6 months, but not within the that you're trying to close on your loan, because they're going to hit your credit. So here's a piece of advice on this. Let's say you want to go to a couple of supply houses and you create an LLC, or you just call yourself Joe Schmo Builder. Okay. You're going to want to set up, you have a form to set up as a builder form. All right. On these forms, not one of them have I ever seen to show my contractor license. And even if I did put it on, they would never check it. Why? Because they want your business. That's what they want. They just don't want the inexperience of somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. They just want someone who carries themselves as if they know what they're talking about, and then they can order accordingly. So they do offer between 3 and 5% discount. Like I go to a masonry store here in town, a big, huge field of blocks and bricks and whatnot. And they'll give me between 2.5% and 5% based upon the volume that I purchase from them in a year's time. And then if I return pallets to them, I can have that as credit. Like right now, I've got $450 in credit at a masonry yard where I can use that for whatever purposes I want. So there's advantages to that. Just call yourself a builder, give yourself a builder email, call yourself Joe Schmo Builder, and go in there and say, I'd like to set up a contractor account, and they'll give you the form and fill it out.
Okay. We got some cool comments.
Oh, this is so cool. You tag teaming together. This is awesome. Thanks, buddy. Okay, what's the next
Let
one?
me just see. Chris and Wally, you both asked about last week's stream. I just have to edit something out of it. We gave out too much information. And so I'll get that edited out. I just have to figure out how to download it, edit it out, and put it back up, and then it will be back up. So thanks for your patience.
I put a person's name and a phone number in there, and with live stream with YouTube, you're not allowed to do that because I'm just having chat stuff without any references to personal contact, personal information. So we're trying to get that edited out. So next one. Doing well.
Comment on the floor plan.
Okay. Could you please? This is Old Pork Chops. Hey, Old Pork Chops. Hi, Keith. Could you please comment on this plan? Can you please Google B1412, the Harrisburg? Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Okay. I can probably do that. I can probably do that afterwards and put it in the chat. Looking up, I'm considering investing approximately budget 85,000 to plus or minus 20K in 75-year-old home. I own free and clear. Before I pull trigger, I'll listen to you for a few months, filling my notebook. Okay. Let's see. That's not a bad budget for a 75-year-old home. It depends on how much exterior work you need. Interior, you'll be able to do it. How much exterior you need, that's a different story. I just remodeled a home for my wife here, and how much did we did that for when it was all said and done?
That was like 130.
About 130,000. It was a total gut job. Electrical, plumbing, all new heating and air system. It's just the works. So you're going to want to do that. If you can get an inspector to walk you through the site before you go in there, and if you need all the mechanical redone, that says something, and that's going to increase your cost. And so 75,000 is not bad. I just remodeled a home for my parents, and it was about $47,000. And that's with new flooring, paint, basin case, toilets, new kitchens, and a new bathroom for the most part, new garage door, miscellaneous things like that. And so it can eat up pretty quick. But the mechanical stuff, wow, that can eat up. And if you are good there, you're okay.
Tony R.
So Tony asks, I'm arguing with my HVAC contractor about wall mount vent covers. He wants surface mounted wall plates only, or if for efficiency will be lost, or efficiency will be lost. If it is a recess beyond the drywall depth. Sorry, I don't know if I understand that.
Events.
Let's see, wall mount vent covers. He wants surface mount. I can kind of see what the issue is there. A lot of times the venting comes through the vent, and if you put a surface mount one on there, it hits that surface mount and it goes back underneath the flange of the vent. And so you're losing efficiency back inside the frame structure. And that's the problem with flush mount or wall mounted systems. If it's embedded as part of the whole system and it just comes right to the wall, then you're not losing that air gap. Now, there's ways to solve for that, but all these mounting things they put on air vents, you're losing about 25% of that efficiency back into the frame structure. So it's something you might want to consider. What was the next one? We got about 5 more minutes here.
Warm board and floor heating.
A warm board and floor heating. I've been thinking a lot about this, and it sounds cool, especially in warm climates. But you're going to pay for a subcontractor to heat the home, and then you're going to pay for another subcontractor to cool the home if you're going to require cooling. And the cooling is still going to be forced air or a mini split system. So the warm boards, I think, are really, really great if you're in a very, 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 very cold climate. And it's either a wood warm system or it's a pipe system inside the slab on grade, inside the concrete. Now, in our neck of the woods, we do a lot of high-end custom homes, and they do the floor heating system inside the bathrooms. So when you wake up and you're going into the bathroom, you have a warm floor to walk on. That's really, really nice. But it can be very costly to do that throughout the entire home. So it's really a cost factor.
So looking up, there's 2 together.
Okay, nice. Good to know. Thank you very much for telling me to start with an inspector. Okay, inspector will walk me through. You just have a good building inspector walk you through the home, and they can tell.
It's an inspector architect.
And ask them to do a thermal imaging camera with them. And then that thermal imaging can actually, and they'll show you where the leaks are in the wall, where the inefficiencies are in the wall. That's going to tell a lot on your home. All right. I had a client from hell, and we had a leak, and they wanted proof that there's no moisture in the attic. So I brought a third party involved. He brought his thermal imaging on there, and he actually showed there's no water, there's no leak in the home. And it really helped me out. And so it gave them a little relaxation to know that there's not mold buildup because there's no moisture buildup, right? So if they have that kind of technology, that's going to be a real plus, okay? They can also bring, there's gadgets they bring. They can test the GFI outlets, the ground fault interrupters to make sure that they're working. If it's a really, really good inspector and they've got all 4 certifications, if they have all 4 certifications, they're as good as a building inspector from the county or the city. If they don't have any of those certifications, you don't want to have them. Maybe a builder might, with a lot of experience, come in. They can give you some feedback, but they're not going to test like a true inspector is going to test stuff, okay? See, Keith, what is your standard drywall finish for most of your homes? Level 3 or 4? I never go to level 5. I don't. Level 5 is for very contemporary modern homes where you're super straight wall. And if I'm doing that, then I'm not using traditional saw cut lumber. I'm using engineered lumber, and I'm using it specifically in the kitchens where I want those cabinets to be flush. I'm using that engineered lumber along hallways where I want a really, really crisp wall with no indentations. And if I'm really, really particular, I'll use metal studs inside the wall, just in those particular areas where it's non-bearing, or I want a straight flat wall. But I don't go to a level 5. I'm between level 3 and 4. But level 3 is good enough for me. So if you have a good drywaller, let's see. Um, let's see. We'll answer these last few questions here. If you haven't contacted MasterCard, they probably have variations of the design too. I don't know who MasterCard is. Good to email them if there's something about it. I had one question that somebody emailed me. Hopefully I can get to that real quickly. They said they wanted this question. See if I can find it. It was in my email. If not, I'll see that a lot of questions came into my email. Let's see here. Yeah, a person was asking about. This is a really good question. We'll kind of end this with this question. It's a really, really good question. Here in Bainbridge Island, this is Angela asking a question. Washington, contractors are very busy, and it's been difficult to get bids to get started with earthwork in the foundation. I found an excavation company that says they can also do the concrete work and framing if they hire specific employees. They have what appears to be a legitimate website with web references for excavation work. They only have a deck and the owner's personal residence as a reference and example of his work. That's a red flag. I'll get back to that in a second. They have not done any work on the island. Another red flag. Only a small city across the bridge. The owner is also listed as the president of another construction company. I like to give people a chance, but is the lack of references enough to not work with them? Should I just stick with their earthwork, or would you have time to take a look at their bid? Well, I'm going to answer that question here. This here already has too many red flags. If that person is over 30, 35 or something like that, and they've been in business for a long time and they don't have a presence online, they don't have references, you can go to my website at kelsconstruction.com. You can even go to How to Build Your Own Home, and you can look at the testimonials, the references, all that kind of stuff. That should be a concern to them. It sounds like a one-off situation. Now, I've seen a lot of owner builders taking advantage of one-off situations. People come in and they're fly-by-night and they operate under shady situations, and they take people's money. All right, this kind of gives me that feeling that they're not a follow-through person. And if they ask for any money up front and there's no material cost up front, you do not give them any money. In fact, I don't give any money to framers until they're 20 to 30% done, and then I give them money. Why? Because there's no cash outlay on their part for the work they're doing. It's only labor, so I make them put forth labor first. Now, some people, like a flooring person, I have to give them a certain amount because they're going to buy the material and then show up, and that you can understand that. But you don't give them 50% or a huge amount of money up front. You want to make sure that they're reputable. They've got a good standing in the community, and if they don't have any references on their website or people that they can call, that's not good. Like mine, I have a client looking at me right now to build a home, and I send them a sheet. It's a single PDF with 15 people they can call, and the top 5 are the most recent people that I've completed work for. I get approval with all my clients. If I have somebody call you, will you mind giving them your honest feedback? And I don't care if it's good or bad. I just want to make sure that they have someone they can call. Yes, Keith, not a problem. And I'll give them that sheet. If they don't have that, and if they don't have pictures, you can go to my website. A good builder, they'll have literally dozens and dozens, even hundreds of pictures on their website indicating the work that they've done. So that's not a good thing. It's like if you're in a restaurant and you don't even have a menu and you don't even have any pictures of what you can sell. We just have food in the back. I can make that. Yeah, you want chicken fried steak? That's not on the menu, but yeah, I can do that. My wife's mom. It's not going to happen. It's not a good thing there. Did we
Dad's
have?
Diner.
Yeah, Dad's Diner. We went to a diner with the kids many years ago, and it was the worst food ever. I ordered lemon chicken, and they used lemon pie filling for the chicken, and it was terrible. So it is terrible. So you don't want people in business that don't have any experience in business. And restaurants are a really good example. Look at how people operate restaurants. You can see them online, all these shows and stuff like that. And people operate construction companies just like they operate restaurants. And if some restaurants are operated very well, then you want to look for construction companies that are also operated in the same fashion. And like I've said before, and I'll end with this really piece of advice, the best subcontractors I have found are a duo where there's somebody running the back of the office and somebody running the front office. Like my daughter runs my back office here. She does all my invoicing, all my communications, even a lot of my scheduling and selections with clients. She manages that right there. And I'm out in the field talking with subcontractors, making sure things are being done right. If you have that duo, that's the best subcontractor to hire, is when you have that. If they're just managing the front and the back and they're doing all the paperwork and all the communications and all the invoicing and they're on the site at the same time, that's kind of a recipe for disaster. So look for those. Look for those duo teams. They're phenomenal. They're some of the best that are out there. So we'll end with that. This was the Keith with Live Chat. If I could go on forever, I want to kind of end it here with after an hour. We'll be here every week at 5 Mountain Standard Time. Have your questions ready. I'll be happy to answer those questions. If you have any specific, this is your first time looking into being an owner builder, I have a first steps course, and it's only $49. It's a great investment. Take the first steps course. It gives you 13 modules, and the number 3 module, that alone is worth the course. It's gonna, you download it. It's going to walk you through how to really find the cost per square foot. I get asked that. What do you build? What's your cost per square foot? It's a moving target. It's always moving. Well, this here formula actually helps you find out what that moving target is for that moment in time in your particular market. And you do it 2 or 3 different times, and then you average them out. You'll see the average cost per square foot in your area. But you have to go through the formula. You have to actually go through that little exercise. It's a single page formula, and it's not hard to do. It just takes a little bit of time, and you have to research and find the questions, find the answers out there in the market, and a good realtor can give you those answers for you. And you can even just look on the Zillow, or even look on the local MLS, multiple listing service, and it will tell you what things are selling for, and it will tell you what to deduct, what to add, and then you'll tell you what your cost, because you're not trying to find the cost per square foot in the market. You're trying to find what your cost per square foot is. The formula is going to help you do that. And if you go through that whole course, at the very end, there's a coupon code that allows people to purchase the self-managed course. I've only seen a few people catch that coupon code. It's in the very last. You have to go to the last class and you'll see it. And so use that coupon code. It will give you a discount for the self-managed package. And I do have scholarships for all types of people. Check out the scholarship form, fill it out, send it back to me, and I can award scholarships for those people that qualify. But make sure you qualify and you fill out that form. So anyway, this is Keith. We're going to end the chat. You guys take care. It's been fun. We'll do this. What's that?
Said yeah.
Well, we'll do it again. It's my beautiful wife. And we're going to actually do it next Thursday. We're going to be on the road. We're going to see how it's going to go. We're going to be traveling across the country, and we're going to hopefully find a hot spot, and we'll pull over. We're going to see how it works, and we'll do a live chat from the road next Thursday. And we'll do 2 live chats from the road, probably. And so we're going to be traveling across the country to see some parts of the world we have not seen. So I'll be answering questions on those live chats. Hopefully we'll find a lot. We'll make it. We'll make it happen. Yeah. So anyway, we'll see you guys then. You guys take care. Have a great week.